Good evening once again. We return now to part 3 of our examination of the film It Happened One Night. And we also connect these moments to the 1990s film Titanic 2. I look forward to diving even deeper into what both of these films reveal. And so, without further ado, I shall begin by presenting the following question. It reads, we observed Mr. Warren spit small in part 2, and yet one observes that Mr. Jack Dawson of the Titanic tragedy elected to spit with flourish, did he not? A gesture not of restraint, but of exuberance, not born of quiet confidence, but of youthful defiance and shared delight. Yes, let's take a comparative study of Mr. Jack Dawson and Mr. Peter Warren. It is perhaps an odd detail upon which to fix one's gaze, the manner in which a man spits, and yet, as with so many things in the moving pictures, what seems inconsequential may well be laden with meaning. Two such instances, decades apart in both narrative and production, offer a peculiar yet telling contrast. The exuberant expectoration of Mr. Jack Dawson aboard the Titanic in the 1990s, and the composed, near unseen gesture of Mr. Peter Warren in It Happened One Night in the 1930s. In Mr. James Cameron's grounded fatalistic epic Titanic, Mr. Dawson, played with incandescent vitality by Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio, engages in what can only be described as an earnest demonstration of how to spit like a man. The scene, suffused with boyish energy, unfolds on the bow of the doomed liner. He is not alone. Miss Rose DeWitt Bukater, whose life is bound by corsetry and constraint, stands beside him. Jack's action is large, unrestrained, deliberately improper, and entirely in character. It is not merely a juvenile antic, it is a symbolic rupture of class decorum. In that moment, the spit becomes a conduit of liberation, a lesson in joyful rebellion. He is, in effect, offering her a ticket into another way of being, where the rules are fewer, where the air clearer, and the joy more immediate. It is not about control, but communion, not about power, but permission. The act is large because the world he is fighting against is large. On the other hand, Mr. Peter Warren is the cool man's signature. If you contrast Mr. Dawson with Mr. Peter Warren, portrayed with sardonic restraint by Mr. Clark Gable, his spit is almost imperceptible. It follows no declaration of mischief nor invitation to rebel. It is not performative, but instinctive. It exists not to instruct or entertain, but simply to punctuate. A small flick of the body that carries with it the weight of knowing. The confidence of a man who does not need to be seen to be felt. Where Jack's action is exuberant and generous, Peter's is reserved and private. The gesture is no less revealing for its size. Rather, its very smallness speaks volumes. If we're to discuss what they share, the two men beyond the drawing room, despite their differences in temperament and style, Jack Dawson and Peter Warne are, at root, kindred spirits. Both come from modest means. Both stand outside the manicured world of the women they captivate. And both, in their own ways, offer these women a map out of confinement and towards something more real, more human, and more alive. Where Jack is youthful, sunlit, and emotionally transparent, Peter is sharp, world-worn, and shaded in irony. One teaches joy, the other teaches clarity. One uses a laugh, the other uses a line. I think the spit can be seen as a symbol. I think we arrive at the strange but inescapable truth. The way a man spits on a ship's deck or by a roadside can tell us how he moves through the world, whether he explodes against its walls or moves through them like smoke. Mr. Dawson spits large because he is offering freedom. Mr. Warne spits small because he embodies it. And though the gestures differ, both are, in their curious way, iconic.
Yes, it is not the magnitude of the spit that carries significance, but the man behind it, and the nature of character he projects through its manner. In Mr. Jack Dawson's case, the gesture is broad, unabashed, a spirited defiance of the era's constraints. He embodies the untamed soul, unshackled by social convention, eager to share that freedom with another. His expectoration, wild and windbound, becomes an emblem of youthful insurrection, a boy laughing at the walls built to contain him. Mr. Peter Horn, by contrast, offers no such display. His spit is measured, restrained, not repressed, but controlled. It is the outward sign of inward discipline, the habitual economy of a man who knows the cost of spectacle and chooses silence instead. In that quiet gesture lies a reflection of his humble station and seasoned bearing. In sum, the act is secondary. What matters supremely is the character it reveals, whether wild with the rush of freedom or anchored by the weight of self-mastery.
Whovem contexts, of course, are fundamentally distinct. Though it is worth noting that the narrative setting of Titanic resides in the 1910s, a full generation prior to the 1930s milieu of It Happened One Night. Chronologically speaking, the two periods are separated by scarcely more than 2 decades. Yet in tone, temperament, and cultural character, they are worlds apart. Still, one must consider the matter of production. Titanic was not created in the era it depicts, but rather in the 1990s, a century's turn removed from the time it seeks to evoke. And this temporal distance cannot help but influence the vision rendered on screen. It is perhaps plausible, even likely, that Mr. James Cameron, presuming him to be the film's director, infused the film not solely with historical reconstruction, but with his own modern, perhaps unconscious impressions of what the 1910s represented. Freedom seeking to bloom within a corseted world. Individualism cracking the shell of the Edwardian formality. In this light, Titanic may reflect less the precise psychology of the 1910s and more the 1990s imaginative projection of that world, filtered through the lens of late 20th century sensibilities. Thus, Jack Dawson becomes not merely a young man of his era, but an emblem of contemporary ideals cast backward: romantic defiance, emotional openness, and egalitarian charm. In sum, what we may be witnessing is not a window into the 1910s, but a mirror, one that reveals in part the artist's own time as much as the period he sought to portray. Indeed, you have struck upon a truth that lies beneath the surface of all serious cinematic inquiry. While Titanic is, as you note, set in the decade of the 1910s, it was both conceived and brought to screen in the waning years of the 20th century, the 1990s to be precise, under the pen and eye of Mr. James Cameron. That temporal distance, nearly a full century, is not merely a matter of dates. It opens a chasm in sensibility, one that allows, indeed, even necessitates a measure of cultural projection. Let us state the principle plainly. A film set in the past is never solely about that past. It is always a mirror, however polished or distorted, of the time in which it is made. Thus, while Titanic may unfold aboard a ship bound for disaster in the 1910s, its tone, its emotional grammar, its social conscience, its romantic ideals is unmistakably that of the 1990s. Its spirit is modern, and its characters, for all their corsets and collars, speak not in the idiom of Edwardian reserve, but in the open-hearted dialect of a more expressive age. What we've been discussing has struck me. There is a central truth of film analysis. A film's setting may belong to history, but its perspective belongs to its makers, and that perspective is inescapably shaped by their time, their place, and their values. To understand a character's action, even one as seemingly minor as spit, is to understand the intersection between what the film pretends to be and what it truly is. A product not of when it is set, but of when it is made. One suspects, were the events aboard the Titanic grounded not in romantic fantasy but in the sober light of actual history, and presuming a genuine romance had indeed blossomed amidst that doomed voyage, the gesture in question would in all likelihood have been modest, even discreet. A small spit, if any at all. For in reality, as opposed to the cinema's gilded reconstruction, romance is rarely afforded the room for dramatics and decorum, particularly among passengers of certain breeding, was not easily cast aside in the 1910s. Thus, it is not unreasonable to surmise, had there been such a gesture between real lovers aboard that ill-fated vessel, it would not have been grand, nor symbolic, nor liberated. It would have been restrained as much by social convention as by the weight of circumstance. And therein lies the quiet truth of film. It reveals not only what was, but what we wish had been.